All right, let's jump right into a really tough ethical puzzle. We're going to explore a hypothetical case that puts a doctor's search for answers head-to-head with a family's rights during a time of tragedy. Now, I have to stress this right up front. What we're about to discuss is a thought experiment. It's not a real event. We're using it as a case study to navigate a situation where good intentions can and do collide. So here's the setup. The story starts with what everyone hoped would be a routine recovery from surgery, but it takes a sudden and absolutely devastating turn. We have a 45-year-old woman who has just had surgery for breast cancer. Everything seems to be going fine. But then, on the 5th day, her condition just plummets. It deteriorates incredibly fast. And by the next day, she's gone. Her family, the doctors, everyone is left in complete shock. And here's the real problem. The medical team has no clear idea why she died. There's no obvious cause. And that one single unanswered question is the spark that ignites this entire ethical firestorm. So this deep uncertainty leads us directly to the core of the conflict, where the clinical need to know what happened runs right into the wishes of a grieving family. The residents on her case, desperate to understand what went wrong, asked the family for permission to perform an autopsy. The family's response? A hard no. Absolutely not. It was a complete and total refusal. So, the residents have hit a wall, and this is where they find themselves in a really difficult spot. They start to consider a pretty controversial move, doing a needle biopsy on the liver, in secret, without the family's knowledge, just to get a tissue sample that might hold the answer. And that brings us to the central question of this whole explainer. Is it morally okay, or even legally allowed, to do something like that? I mean, what's the right call when your professional duty to find the truth is in direct opposition to a family's wishes? To really get the weight of this decision, we have to put ourselves in the family's shoes for a moment. You know, their refusal isn't coming from nowhere. It's rooted in some very real and understandable concerns. Think about it. They're already dealing with immense grief. The idea of an autopsy can just feel like piling on more stress and emotional trauma. Then there are the practical worries, right? Will this cost us money? Will it delay the funeral? And frankly, the way autopsies are portrayed in movies and TV shows, it doesn't exactly help matters. Okay, so let's flip the coin. Let's look at the serious trouble that doctors could get into if they decide to go ahead with that secret biopsy. This isn't just some ethical gray area, it is a potential legal minefield. The legal dangers here are huge. First off, taking tissue without permission could be viewed in court as literally stealing. Second, what if that biopsy needle causes some minor internal bleeding? If that's discovered later, it could easily be misinterpreted as evidence of malpractice that happened before she died. The risk of making a terrible situation infinitely worse is just off the charts. So just when it feels like there's no way out of this dilemma, the legal framework introduces a major plot twist, one that completely changes the dynamic of the case. The key phrase here is medical legal case. What this means, legally speaking, is that any death where the cause is a mystery, just like this one, automatically falls into this special category. It's no longer just a private family matter. It's now a subject for official investigation. And here's the crucial point. Once a case is declared medical legal, an autopsy is no longer a request. It becomes mandatory under the law. And when it's legally required, the family's consent is no longer necessary. The doctors actually have the legal authority to proceed with a full autopsy. But, you know, just because something is legally allowed doesn't automatically make it the best approach. The purely legal answer can miss the human element entirely. And that brings us to what might be the ideal resolution. So the ideal path isn't about using the law to override the family. It's about connecting with them. Step 1 is to gently and clearly explain why an autopsy is so important, not just for their own peace of mind, but for how it helps advance medical knowledge for everyone. And step 2, which is really the foundation for everything, is building a relationship based on trust. And this really says it all. The law is a backstop. It's a rule for when all else fails. But trust is the real solution. When a family truly trusts that the medical team has their best interests at heart, even in their darkest hour, that difficult conversation can become an act of partnership. And that leaves us with a final question to ponder. In these high-stakes moments, when clear-cut rules are in conflict with raw human emotions, how do we find the right balance between what is legally required and what is compassionately right?